Welcome, thank you all for coming. I'm a little bit under the weather, so if I get froggy, sound froggy, walk out, Melissa or Greg will jump up and move right along with this. So anyway, I apologize for that, but we have a great panel today. We have Shelley Strickland with Malibu Boats. I'm very interested from a manufacturing kind of standpoint how that's going to work. Amanda Hurley, she's with the Department of Energy, and I'll let her tell you the story, but they've been doing it for a very, very long time, this 4-day work week. And a good friend of mine, Mary Thompson at Schultz Pediatric, and I think they have implemented theirs several years ago as well. So what we're going to do is I'm going to let each one of them introduce, tell them what, if you'll just say who you are, who you're with, and what all you do, and where you're at in the 4-day workplace process. And then I'm going to do some questions, identified questions that we've already thought through. And then I'm going to open it up and let you all talk to them and ask questions. We are videotaping this, so like what I want to do is I want to make sure that my boss sees all the great reasons why we need to look at 4-day work weeks, why we'll be sharing this video with him and our other team members. So with that, I will start on this side. If you will just open up and tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, what are you doing at Malibu Boats, and where you're at in that process.
So my name is Shelley Strickland, and once again, I'm at Malibu Boats, which is in Loudoun County. And I'm the HR manager there. Started out at the receptionist desk and kind of worked my way up, did payroll for years. We moved to 4-day work week probably 2011, 2012. Prior to that, it was 5/8. And our production team is working Monday through Thursday, 10-hour days. Typically 6:30 to 5 is their schedule. Support teams, so that would be HR, IT, accounting, engineering, customer service. They're still on a 5/8 schedule, so they're still there, able to support. We're able to do maybe shorter days on Fridays, so I'm out of there early afternoon typically. It's worked very well for our team in moving to the 410.
Hey, my name is Amanda Hurley. I'm with Y12 National Security Complex. We are a government contractor, so we are advanced manufacturing. We have been doing a 410 schedule since the 1900s, since the 1990s. So we've been doing it for a long time. It's very much ingrained in our business. As a secure site that does some highly classified work, the lights are always on at Y12. There's always somebody home. So we have different shifts, but a lot of our business, a core business group, is on 410s.
I'm Mary Thompson with Schultz Pediatrics. We're a member of Summit Medical Group. I have a similar story to Shelley. I started at the front desk when I was 15, so I'm celebrating 19 years and kind of just worked my way up. We started the 4-day work week in 2018 when we expanded our hours from 7 to 6, and we had to figure out a way to take care of our patients with high quality care, but then still offer a work-life balance for our employees. And it just depends on the department and role who is working what, but most of my team members work between 3 and 4 days a week. I have the occasional few that like a 5-day work week, and we try to work with them.
So one of the things I was noticing when I was looking up some things on 4-day work week was, what is a 4-day work week? Is it the same number of hours that you would traditionally work in a shorter amount of time? I'm going to get this backwards. Or is it the same? Okay, I'm on cough medicine, y'all. So is it the same number of hours in a shorter amount of time, or is it shorter hours?
So that depends on the role for us. Our provider level and salary employees are paid based off of a 40-hour work week, but are scheduled 30 to 32 hours. And the reason we chose to do that was just it gives the employee back their time to be able to do what they need to do. So when we need fill-in for a provider being out, my providers are more willing to be able to step into that role and see patients for a provider that's out because they're not working a full 40 and they're not burnt out. My hourly employees do work their 30 to 34 hours based off of their same pay rate. So their pay rate didn't go down, but they only earn what they do work.
So we work a 40-hour work week, exempt, non-exempt, salary or hourly, and it is Monday through Thursday. So we're getting our 40-hour weekend early and then enjoying the weekend.
Same for us. Yeah, it's Monday through Thursday, 40 hours.
Okay. So here's a question for you. What are the pros and the cons of making this transition? So I'll start on this end.
I think some of the pros, when you're looking at it in a production sense, flexibility is part of that. So meaning on the company side, it gives flexibility. If you do have to ramp up production, you can add a Friday and you're not cutting into somebody's weekend. So it does give you the ability to, if things are busy and boats are selling, we can add Fridays and it's not bad, and it's, obviously overtime for the team. As far as for the employees, once again, that flexibility. So having a longer weekend, they enjoy that, being able to have that time on Fridays and to do things, get those doctor's appointments in, that kind of stuff. But we also find that has caused some problems in that there's a lot of doctor's offices and dentist offices that are closed on Fridays. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't give that what we thought would happen. And then another thing that it also can cause problems with is daycare issues. Mm. So if you have a young workforce and they have children in daycare and their shift starts at 6:30, does the daycare open at 6:30 for them to be able to drop off their children? And so you do run a risk of maybe potentially losing good employees because they don't have the ability to flex with that type of.
Yeah. So I will echo everything Shelley said, especially from the manufacturing standpoint, because you do have that cushion on Friday. If you have scope that increases, you can pull that lever. As I'm the director of recruiting and placement at Y12, and so from a recruiting standpoint, it's a huge plus. I mean, being able to tell a potential candidate that you're fighting to get to in this competitive market that, hey, every Friday or every weekend's a 3-day weekend, and not only are you going to get paid time off and paid holidays, you're getting 52 Fridays off a year. That's hard to beat. So for those of you that we compete with talent for, stay on the 5/8. That's fine with me. So that's a huge selling plus. The thing that I see the most, I see the employees with young children or school-age children can struggle, and I think with that, flexibility becomes key. So we do have people that choose to stay on a 5/8 because of that reason, and then they'll switch as their children get older or their life situation changes. So flexibility is really important if you're moving over to this. The other thing, as a kind of a con, is it can be a struggle for leaders who have worked their whole life on 5/8, and then all of a sudden their workforce is not there, their team's not there, and so there's outreach on Fridays and some challenges to get through there. So that buy-in from leadership is really key, and the understanding of, what is an emergency on Friday that would cause you to reach out on somebody's day off.
For our industry, we experience a lot of burnout, and so a big selling point of moving to the 3 to 4 day work week was to allow our team to get a big exhale. And when people are stressed and burnt out, they get sick easier. Since we're working with sick children, we were just having a lot of individuals getting sicker and having to call in. So since we have switched to the 4 day work week, we have noticed that people are requesting less time off. They are healthier, not getting as sick and tired. The cons to our schedule is that we have to be available 7 to 6, and so not everybody can be off on Friday or Monday, and so we had to kind of structure the tasks and the duties and delegate those to the appropriate team members to make it fair and even on what days and tasks individuals are working. And we share the same thing with childcare because most of my workforce are young mothers, and so making sure that the shifts were accessible for them to be able to get to work.
So one of the things that Mary and I chatted about before y'all came in was, and this is a fear that I might have, and it would be, you always have an employee that pushes the envelope. If you say 5, they do 4. If you say 4, they do 3. How, in no particular order, how do you handle that? I know Mary was telling me that this process has kind of weeded some of those people out, but just want to throw that out to the group.
Yeah, for us, we did have individuals who were not pulling their weight, and once we did reorganize the duties and made it very clear what the expectations were in their shifts, it became very evident that they were not pulling their weight. I have had to get rid of a couple people, and some people just were not comfortable with the attitude change with others and peers and chose to leave. And so it has left me with really great workers that are team players.
So we're in a little bit of a unique situation because as a government contractor and congressionally funded, timekeeping and, and very accurate timekeeping is really key for our company. So we didn't have that issue as much, or haven't seen that issue. Our performance has stayed the same, very productive throughout this time. And I'll echo, too, the work-life balance that we hear from our employees of I'm never going back to a 5/8 after they've started is pretty key. So they don't want to do anything to mess it up either.
Yeah, we were talking about it yesterday, and kind of when I was kind of going through making sure that I knew what I was talking about today. And I can't remember really the production side us back when we were doing 5/8. So I can't remember what was that starting schedule and how did we handle that. But if you think about if they're working, if they're working 8 to 5 or 8:30 to 5 or even 7 to 4, their day is tied up. They can't do stuff. So there's nothing open afterwards anyway. So adding an earlier morning, I think, yeah, they start out earlier. Other than the childcare issues, it kind of gives them a longer day. But making sure that for us, we had to make sure that we had a good attendance policy in place. So making sure that this is your start time. You have to be here. If you're not here, that counts against you. You have so many occurrences before it becomes disciplinary action and those type of things. We've also because of the flexibility and sometimes lack thereof, because like I said, doctors' offices may be being closed on Fridays and things like that they can't get those appointments in. We don't have a sick policy, but we do have an emergency day policy, so people can take an emergency day and it not count against them. So I think having those type of things in place has helped us be able to monitor the attendance side of it.
So you don't have a sick policy?
We do not have a sick policy.
Okay.
So we have a personal leave policy and a PTO. So there's two different buckets
Yep.
for that. For similar reasons,
Yeah.
there's not, especially specialty doctors or things like that, they're not open on Fridays.
Yep.
Do you allow people, if they have to take a doctor's appointment on Tuesday, to then work on Friday to make that up?
So we do. We offer balancing, and that is another selling point that my team as recruiters use too. And so it differs from exempt and non-exempt, but for our exempt employees, you have a set number of hours that you have to get to in a month, and as long as it equals out at the end with manager approval, then you can do that.
So we don't, for the fact that production, we are, it's almost like an assembly line process. So if the boat starts in the painting process and moves through and ends up in assembly, we have to have that feed. So if I have somebody working on a Friday, what are they working on? So no, it is truly a Monday through Thursday policy or schedule. And if they need to take a doctor's appointment, they can use PTO for that. If they, our policy is they have to give 24 hours notice to request a day off, or it's not approved. But if they wake up sick or a child is sick and they call in and say, I can't be there, that's where that personal time policy comes into play, and it doesn't count against them, but they don't get paid for that day.
And you're doing one shift.
We do one shift. It can work with two. We did do two at one time. It's just a little trickier. Yeah, we are one shift.
So we had another company that we had invited today, and they couldn't make it, and the reason they couldn't make it has nothing to do with what I'm getting ready to say. But they moved to 4-day last year, and they weren't ready, and so they've gone back to do it. And I think they're going to readdress it in the future, because they really want to offer this 4-day. So as companies and leaders that are considering it, what tips would you give a company? Because the one I heard from, they said, we didn't do our homework. We didn't get all the things where they needed to be. So,
Yeah, and that's a great point. We knew we had to do something with expanding our hours, so we met as a management team and brought our supervisors in of each department and said, this is our problem, how do we fix it? And we really brainstormed for about 6 months on how we were going to do the shift scheduling. We set really clear boundaries about expectations, time off, when you're supposed to arrive, based it off department role, what the roles and responsibilities were. We do allow the shift trading, so we had to set a policy for if you need to take a Friday off, you are allowed to trade for a Tuesday, but this is the process that you need to make. So we took a lot of time and met monthly on the process, and then implemented it with one schedule for a provider first, and then rolled it out to the additional. So we started small, analyzed what worked with that process, tweaked it a little bit, and then moved forward. So it took us about 12 months to really get everybody on the 4-day work week, but I felt like we were prepared for it because we did the research.
So I had to do some asking around too before this meeting, since we've been doing it for so long, and asking some of the, what were some of the challenges too. And what was shared with me was everything, Mary, what you said was, those policies and making sure that everybody understands what they can and can't do is key. The other thing that I heard quite a bit of is communication and leadership buy-in. So make sure that you're over communicating all the way through. Like if you transition in 12 months, it's 12 months before that we're starting to talk about it and get everybody in line too.
I think, absolutely, I think all of that is true. I think you have to make sure that you can, present your case to the employees as to why this is a benefit. And having it strictly as a business benefit, they don't care. They don't care anything about this. So how is this beneficial to them? And so talk to your supervisors, your leaders that are out there on the floor listening to the employees, and get the feedback from them and see if they can get feedback. I don't think a survey to the employees of would you like this and that kind of stuff, I'm not sure that would be beneficial, because sometimes that opens up a whole nother can of worms that you don't want to deal with. But I think that having your supervisors with their ear to the ground and just understanding what the employees are asking for, so that you can go and start pleading the case to them. And then, like you said, giving plenty of lead time for this transition. This is not going to be a quick transition, so you've got to give yourself plenty of time to be able to move into that.
would you suggest having an outside party come in to lead a company through that process, or do you feel confident, feel really good about implementing from the inside?
I think it can be done from the inside. We did it from the inside.
Same.
I think it depends on the size of your organization and how many moving parts there are. For us, we're relatively small, and we're able to do it and communicate effectively. But I can see a large company where there's so many moving parts where it might be helpful.
Because how many employees do you have?
So total is over 11,000. So we're pretty big, but
That's not pretty big, that
That's
is big.
Pretty large. But we were able to do it inside, but it did take, it took a lot of planning, a lot of communication.
We have about 800 employees, but we also own 3 other boating manufacturers across the United States. We have Cobalt Boats in Kansas, and we have Pursuit Boats in Florida, and also Maverick Boating Group in Florida. So with all of us, we've got about 2,500 employees. Gradually, some of the other boat companies have been brought on to the 410. So recently, we brought on Maverick Boat Group, but up until probably a year ago, they were on 4.8s. And some of the things that they struggled with in manufacturing is kind of all or nothing. So while I say that the support teams are on those 5.8s, but when you're talking about production, it's all or nothing. So everybody's got to be bought into it, and everybody has to do that 410 schedule. And it's easier also if you have that fixed schedule, especially in our situation with how the boat comes down the line. If I have a department, so we were talking about it yesterday, and we had one manager that came and said, I would like for our upholstery team, instead of a 6:30 start time, we'd like for them to have a 6 o'clock start time. Is that a problem? And it's like, well, not by me. Probably need to run that by the rest of the ops team. Well, they didn't. And they started with a 6 o'clock start time, whereas everybody else is a 6:30 start time. And the problem is that's a department that feeds into other departments. So if there's an issue, or we run into overtime, a longer day for some reason, somebody from that department needs to stay over to make sure everything's okay for the rest of the production. So it really makes sense for everybody being on, especially if they're feeding parts to another department, same start time, and just having that everybody's bought into the same schedule.
So how can you ensure, or what do you do to ensure customer service and operational needs are still being met at the level, at the high level that you want achieved?
So we, as far as customer satisfaction, we send out satisfaction surveys to our patients. And part of one of our quality measures for patient-centered medical home is we call and interview families on access and how our team is providing care. So that's how we continually monitor our feedback from our patient base. And then as far as the productivity within our clinic, that's where those boundaries and policies and procedures really come into play. We have monthly one-on-ones with our department leads and then our provider level, just to check in to see how things are going, making sure that they're meeting their goals and their productivity.
So at Y12 National Security, we don't have a product that we sell. So our customer is the United States government and the U.S. Navy, and so it really comes down to producing or doing the delivery of the mission that we've been asked to do. Most of them are on flex schedules too, so the expectation of responses on Friday is pretty low. Where I do see impact is we work with vendors and partners that work 5/8, and so and it's a mixed bag of what I hear. Sometimes we'll hear, Fridays is our day to catch up from all the things that Y12 has sent us, and we love that you guys are off on Fridays too. I've really wanted to get this done, and we had to wait 3 days until Monday. So I would say that some of the things you can really do is communicate, and if there are ways that you need to be reached on a Friday, have that expectation and have that flexibility there too.
Like I said, our support team is there on Friday, so they still are at that 5/8 because we did have customers that we had to service. And while the production team is not working directly with them, the customer services, the vendors that, accounting, they may not want to wait until Monday to say, did you send the check? Or, whatever that may be. So those departments are still on that 5/8.
So, I think it's helped you for sure in recruitment and retaining.
100%. We are recruiting really competitive roles, whether it's engineering or IT and cyber, and this job market has been just crazy. So when we were not able to compete with, from a compensation standpoint or something like that, the 4-day work week and the time off that it allows helps push us over the edge. And then, we do exit surveys and culture surveys, and so it's constantly high on our list of the schedule and the flexibility that comes with it.
And I'll agree. It has really helped me with recruiting team members of high quality. I have a lot of nurses who leave the hospital environment and come to work for us because of the work-life balance. They're still getting patient-facing time watching children grow, but they're also getting to spend time with their children at home. And from a provider level, they love the 3-day work week of being able to still provide the same level of care, but in a condensed schedule. It's been much easier to hire good talent that stays around.
Yeah, I think we're able to retain on that hourly side. We did see an improvement when we moved to the 410s. So for the hourly production side, I think it did. And we notice when we are in those busy seasons when we're having to add those Fridays, that complaint of, while some of them, my selling point when I talk to them is, if we do add a Friday, that is a required day, but just think cha-ching, just think overtime and that type of stuff. But they get burnt out on that. Obviously, those are long days, and now you're working 50 hours instead of 60 hours or 40 hours in a work week. I think, though, that, we do hear the feedback when we do start seeing those extra days of, listen, you guys told us this was a 4-day work week. So when are we getting back to that? And so you have to make sure that you hear those things, because they do get used to it and they love it.
Yeah, and I'll add too, and this is, it varies by candidate and employee, right? But, we have some people that come on our staff who was working, 40 or 50 hours by Thursday anyway on a 5/8 schedule, or they were working, 60 hours a week. So when they come to us, they're like, wow, really now do have that work-life balance that I was looking for, because that on Friday there is nothing for them to do. There's nobody else working that would get them to be able to add some work to their schedule. So the balance piece, I think, is really beneficial.
So would it be easy to say that this has saved money, your company, some money on retention?
I would say it definitely has. We've had less turnover, so I think it does save on turnover costs. We've not really, that wasn't our goal in the transition to save money. It was really just to create an environment where the culture was stable, and then the money falls into place if you're doing the right thing is kind of our philosophy. But we've not had to recruit jobs that we felt were going to leave sooner than they were expected to. And so that's all I have for that part.
Yeah, I think it does help with retention. Our attrition rates have been low. As far as saving money, I think the cost of a rehire, it certainly does too, but I don't know if we would track down to that.
I agree with that. And I think in production, turnover is crazy. It just is. It's hard work. And some of them just don't want to do that hard work. And then we also, just because of the industry that we're in, there's 4 bazillion other boating companies here in our area. So we just swap people. And so whatever, they think is better, the grass is greener. So then it's very hard for us to be able to, it may look greener, but, and we have several of them that want to come back because they realize it isn't. But I don't know if it's necessarily saved us money. Probably, on some of those rehire costs, like you said, but I'm not sure that's anything that we've really tracked.
So I'm going to open it up now to anybody that would like to ask questions to them, and just make sure you say it loud because we are recording. So here's your time. Tony?
I'm all for this, and I have a question. as manufacturers, maybe medical area too, I'm sure you measure safety, quality, defects. I'm concerned about the longer day. When you get it to past 8 hours, even past 6 hours, people make more mistakes. How's that going?
So safety is a huge component of Watch Well. That is the first thing that you learn about as a new employee, and it is a constant reminder or topic throughout the day. And so all of our employees have the ability and the right to stop work. And so if they see something that is unsafe, if they see a peer or they see a manager or whoever it is that is having issues or having trouble or doing something wrong, they can stop work. And I think that having that safety mindedness has helped tremendously, making sure that we're not having an unsafe environment.
Any difference? I know it's been a long time. Any difference before and after?
Not that I'm aware of, so, yeah.
I think it's just built into our culture, the safety side of it. So, not having lost time injuries and those kind of things are things that we are tracking, and we've gone, 5 million man hours without lost time injuries. And so we're very proud of those numbers. But yes, I think I understand that concern. I think it's built in, it's part of our core value. I think defects is another thing. But because of the type of product that we build, they're all custom built. There's no two alike. So, having stations where, okay, this is what you're focused on, and then report out meetings the next day we have DPU meetings. So we're reporting out the defects from the previous day so we can track it. What was that issue? Was it a training issue? Was it an engineering issue? Was it a supplier issue, or was it just somebody that just, decided they didn't know how to put a screw in straight? And that happens daily, but I don't know if the long work days are really contributing to that.
I'd love to add, if you don't mind, because I think those are all great, but I've also seen where companies have phased in, where you might start with every other Friday, or you might start with half-day Fridays, or you figure out, and then you could kind of monitor that, because sometimes I feel like team members need, instead of going from, 5/8s to 4/10s, it's a big shift in their lives, like you were saying, daycare and everything else. So maybe the phasing would help.
We have a sister site in Amarillo, Texas, who do 9/8, so every other Friday is a 3-day weekend, and for some of those reasons and concerns. Yeah.
You all think you had obstacles to overcome when you went to a 4-day work week? I represent county government. I represent a department that we are busier on Fridays because your employees are off, because we are customer service oriented. And busy office. We eventually, everybody that lives in Blount County has to come to my office for one service or another. Vehicle registrations, marriage license, business license, all of those things. But I feel like it would be such a benefit to my employees to be able to have a day just to sit back and go, whew, I don't have people in my face all day long. And that is a tough business to be in, where it's a constant, and we all know how people behave in today's time. And for the most part, people are really in a good mood when they come to our department, but sometimes they get upset because they don't have the documentation that's required. So I asked you on the customer service side of things. Or even, do you all have Monday holidays? That's another thing with county government. A lot of our holidays are on Monday. I have thought about doing a split shift type thing so that we're open Monday through Friday, but I just don't have the full staff on Mondays and Fridays.
I think it could work. Mm-hmm. I think, I was talking to somebody a couple weeks ago. I remember when I was younger, Wednesdays was a day that so many businesses shut down at noon or something like that. My daughter is in cosmetology. Their salon is closed on Mondays. And so they're, they have a land, because they can cover Saturdays or whatever that may be. So I think it could be, you either choose a day of the week, or you do have a shift where you have somebody that's a Monday through Thursday, or some kind of a stagger and
I know a lot of smaller counties are open only a half a day on Wednesdays, and then they open a half a day on Saturdays. But I feel like that as citizens, the expectations for government are a little bit different. So,
You're here to serve
I would
me.
like input on anyone in here who would say, how would you feel if you came to the courthouse and either you had to stand in line a little bit longer, because that is one of the things that I have fought for, better organization of our services so that people do not have to stand in line. I also fight for Chick-fil-A customer service. That's what I want people to feel like when they leave my office, is that they've had great customer service. Everybody has a bad day. Sometimes my employees don't quite treat people the way that I like for them to. But how do you think that would be perceived by the general public?
So for me personally, and I feel like I'm a broken record up here saying communication and planning and communication and planning, but I think that would be key, is to notify the public that this is happening and when it's going to happen. And there's always going to be that way in advance. And there's always going to be that first little bit where everybody's mad, you're not going to please everyone.
Well,
But
I didn't know. Well, I'm sorry that you don't read your mail.
That's
or anything
right.
that can happen to you. But, I think if you're I think that you could, kind of like what you're doing, it depends on the position. So
Right.
could it be a 4-3 or
A staggered.
something? And so a staggered where you have some that are doing this and some that are doing this and do it that way.
We're in the similar position because in healthcare, the parents are frustrated that their child is sick and they want what they want when they want it. And so our receptionists in particular are the first line of fire, and they're getting every emotion while people are standing in front of them. And so we were finding that they were burning out and they really just needed a break. And how we handled that is we picked an off day for them and then hired in part-time employees or PRN employees to fill in that gap, which is a cheaper expense for us to be able to fill in that hole, but still a quality candidate that allows that full-time person to have a break in their day, and they come back charged the next week and ready to offer exceptional customer service.
So maybe it's not the communication to the public, maybe it's within your department of how can you
If you have the budget.
yeah. Budget.
Yeah.
that thing.
It's a lot to think about.
Yeah.
It is a lot.
Other questions? Now's your time.
You mentioned doing research and getting ready. Could you mention some good resources for that?
Anybody else? It's been so long ago. I think it was really, we didn't use outside agencies, I don't think so much. I think some of our leadership came from other organizations that had done it. So it was something that was implemented with us. But we wanted to make sure that it's something that the employees wanted. And once again, being able to plead the case to them of how it's going to benefit them by doing it.
There's a pretty extensive study done at Boston College. You want to check that out.
I also recommend 4-day week global.
Yes.
They're very active, positive.
So we work outside. So when it's winter and it's still dark in the mornings and then it gets dark early, how would we do something like that? That's been my biggest question. How am I, because I understand with hers is more, rotate the people, let them work 4 days here and the other people work 4 days here. But I work outside, so I
Would you
don't.
have in the winter when it's a shorter work day, do the 5/8, and in the summer it's 4/10?
Interesting. Do one time.
We have outside employees too that work outside, but we have, lots of lights, lots of equipment. And again, I bet that comes back to budget. as well, but.
But if it's like a road crew or a construction site or, you know,
So we do tree care.
Okay.
So we
Yeah.
have chainsaws in the trees and.
Oh, yeah, maybe not in the dark.
probably daylight would be best. for
Daylight would be
that.
good.
I mean, that's going to be a hard sell, and I know that everybody's kicking this around, and I'm just wondering, how would I sell that to our industry? And I'm coming up against a brick wall with that. And I'm sure other construction, people are going to have, think of that. If you can't put, like what he said, can you put lights out? Well, we can't tow lights, where somebody's tree when the neighbor get mad or something, so. I need some real brain.
Maybe it's a seasonal schedule.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Or equipment, have you seen those
So,
machines that just?
would you,
shoot up from the
three, be
bottom?
willing to hang out for a little bit after we finish, so
Yeah.
folks want to talk to you directly? Okay. Any other questions, input? I'm all for it, let's do it.
I was just gonna say for the construction, one thing that we are about to start doing is summer Fridays. So the Friday before Memorial Day, all the way through Labor Day, the week after Labor Day. Friday before Labor Day. We're doing summer Fridays, so team members can work the morning shift, like 8:30 to 12:30, et cetera, and then they can have those 4 hours in the afternoon. However, they make up that time in the same work week. So maybe they take a 30-minute lunch and have 30 extra minutes that they can use for that Friday afternoon. But they make up that time, but it's gonna be a really cool thing. I mean, I have younger kids, and so I'm excited to test it for Dollywood on Friday afternoon, things like that. So I think there's like a way that you can figure out to still give a benefit of some time off, even during those busy summer hours when the days are longer.
I think our hurdle too is you have to make for that, so much money. We have a budget we have to make, and if we're going down to 4 days, how are we going to do that and still make our quota, you know what I mean? So I think there's just a lot of questions on my side, whereas if you're inside, with the production or something, it's a little different.
I just think there's a perception that it's for everybody and every week, and it's not. I mean, I just got to really emphasize the staggered or rotations. I mean, you could consider 410s 1 week and then a full week, then however you want to do it, there's still coverage. Even the summer Fridays, somebody could work 8 to 10, because where we have customer coverage needs, you could work 10 to 2, or you could work noon to 4. And that way the business is getting a lot of overlap. Some team members want to work the afternoon versus the morning, some team members. So I just think it's about first saying that you want to give the benefit, and then I think when you start whiteboarding the world of possibilities, it's amazing where you'll go to.
Also, I think it's a red herring. I mean, I just checked, the shortest day of the year here is 13 hours. Should be able to make that work.
Let's get creative.
One thing to think about, if you have employees in other states, like we have a group of employees in California, we can't roll this out. Well, we could, but we don't roll this out to California because their overtime is based on daily 8 hours. So if we went to 10-hour days for them, we'd be paying 2 hours overtime every day for those employees, and it was not a cost-effective way for us to operate. So, our production team that we have in California is still 5/8.
Yeah, California shoots themselves in the foot sometimes.
That's why they're all moving here.
That's right.
Any other? Well, thank you, each of you, for coming and sharing. I think, or I hope, in the next few years, this will be a normal thing. Maybe not, but I hope so. I hope we can get our work-life balance in check. So help me thank these ladies. And if you don't mind, to stick around and let folks, those really crazy questions that they don't want to ask out loud, they can come directly to you. So thank you for your time. More Success in 90 seminars coming up. So our next one is next Wednesday. What is it about, Melissa?
Managing difficult conversations.
Managing difficult conversations, always a good one. So we will see you then. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.